nice.
And welcome to the Comic Corner here on the Agents of Fandom Network. My name is Eamon. I'm your host. I've done this interview many times. Let's just bring in Kelly Thompson. Kelly, Ringo award-winning writer. Kelly Thompson. Eisner, Ringo, we're collecting them like Infinity Gems.
Oh man, that'd be nice. That would be cool. Yeah, it was awesome. I've never even been nominated for a Ringo before, so it was a huge shock to win, and I was over the moon. That's my first Best Writer win, and I've only been nominated for Best Writer a couple times for awards, so it was awesome. I mean, you look at the company you're in, and you're like, I think there was a mistake that I won this, but I do think. When you win in a writer category like that, you hope it feels like you're like winning for your sort of collective work. But I think it's impossible to deny that Absolute Wonder Woman puts her thumb on the scale pretty hard there. It's by far the most popular thing I've ever done, and well received, which don't always go hand in hand. But this has been a real nice treat in that respect. And then Jeff popping off this year too. I really do enjoy that. The things that I've become really most known for now are this Absolute Wonder Woman and Jeff, which seem like completely different things, but are they? Are they completely different? Like,
no, they both have a good sense of comic hope and joy.
Also, like, Jeff wants to eat everything first, but the second he realizes you're a friend, he turns that off and he moves to something else. So, he and Diana do sort of just gather friends to them like flowers. They're sort of very lovable in that way. That has been one of the treats of Wonder Woman. You know my work really well. I always try to write with a bit of levity, and so I knew that would come into Absolute Wonder Woman too. But sometimes you don't really know until you're in the thick of it, the way that you can sort of draw that out. But like sometimes she just, I don't know. I'm one of those writers. I can't remember if we've ever talked about this, but I'm one of those writers who the characters really do it for me once I build them correctly. If I don't build them correctly and do my research, it can be a problem and I can be stuck or frustrated. But if I do it right, they usually really take over a lot I can just let them go. And I just, there are things where I'll start writing something and I'm like, nope, that's not it. And I just delete it because it's just not right. And I can tell it's not right. I'm like, she wouldn't say that. That's not how this would go. It's a weird thing to experience. Made slightly better for me. I'd feel crazier talking about it. But when I was a kid, I've told this story before. I hope not to you, but probably. We've talked so many times now. When I was a kid, I told my mom that the characters talked to me. And she was like looking at me all crazy eyed, like a suburban mom who's like, oh God, we're going to have to put her in some kind of padded room or something. And then I don't know how long it really was. In my mind, it's like a week or two later, but we were watching some talk show after school and Mary Higgins Clark was on, and she and I both really liked Mary Higgins Clark and had read many of her books. And so we were watching this interview and she's like, well, I really, once I build the characters the right way, they just talk to me. And my mom did this like slow head turn, look over to me like, that's what you said. And I was like, see? I was like, it's fine. She's like, you said the same thing as Mary Higgins Clark. I was like, yeah. And yeah. So yeah, that's for Diana, the weird sort of warm sense of humor. I think it just sort of comes out of her. Like I don't even know that I could stop it if I tried. And I'm so grateful for it because, when a giant minotaur in a maze goes, I can't leave you here alone, and you're fighting a bunch of menfish, and you're like, I'm not alone, I have all these menfish. Like, who says that? What a weirdo. But it just felt right. It felt like her sort of charming view of life. Like, one of my favorite things about her is that by trying to like step on her, they instead honed her into like the greatest weapon. Like, she's not afraid of anything because she just grew up in the worst circumstances you can grow up in, and they weren't that bad because she like made the best of it and had a mother who loved her who made the best of it. And I think it really shaped her in an interesting way that makes her ironically quite deadly, but also quite charming, and things just sort of bounce off her a little bit. It was fun, this one we're doing right now. Sorry, I really talked like nonstop here. I'm sorry. I have a lot. I've been alone
People
all day.
don't need to
Damon.
hear me.
I have
It's
a lot
fine.
to say.
They're not here. They're not here for me. It's fine.
I've been alone all day. I have a lot to say, Damon. Just the cats who are not interested in what I have to say. This issue, these 2-part issue, The Price, we're doing right now with Mateus Bagara. She gets her ass handed to her a bit more, and it's been fun to explore that and what that looks like and how hard it is for her, and like also some of her internal stuff about, you know, there's a bit, I think it was in 13 that just came out yesterday, that's with her being like sort of talking about her own aura, like, was I not special? Am I not special? Do I get killed by this thing that doesn't even have a name? And like, so you see that, like, not that there's narcissism there, but there's just like understanding that she's supposed to be special and that you have these obligations. And that's some stuff we haven't really touched on yet that much. I mean, we sort of show it off in the flashbacks where we see goddesses or Circe talking about her, but we haven't really seen her acknowledge it much yet. So that's been fun. And it was fun to like put her through the ringer. I'm sorry to say it doesn't get better in 14. I'd argue to say it gets worse, although she has more knowledge, which is helpful.
All right. We will talk a lot more about Absolute Wonder Woman. We will talk a lot more about it, I'm sure. But I wanted to talk to you about this. This is a Buffy book. This was announced back in July. Quite a while ago, this was announced that you're working on a Buffy book with Dynamite. Very exciting. And first of all, you also got me to watch the show. And I am now 2 seasons in, very much enjoying it. We've talked a bit about it off camera. Very much a product of the times.
Yes.
There's some special effects in there that are very 90s TV. And it is camp, but that's part of the fun of it. But yeah. Buffy's such a cool character. And I know you can't talk too much about this book yet, but just to build the anticipation.
Yeah. So it's very exciting. I mean, first of all, the books for the first arc are tied like really tightly together. So it's more like one big story for, I think it's 10 issues. So it's like 5 and 5, I think. And I think there's a little bit of a suffering for the Angel book, which after that first arc will be a little bit more of the supernatural detective stuff, which I'm obviously a very big fan of. You know, detectives are sort of my favorite thing, and supernatural detective is, I don't know, is it actually the favorite thing? Maybe. So I'm very interested in that stuff, but for this first story, they're all sort of drawn together for an event sort of thing. I don't want to make that sound like a crossover event. I just mean something big happens that they all sort of have to come together to, the Buffy book and the Angel book, and sets us on a pretty dramatic opening arc for that, where everyone is sort of working together, and the team is sort of jumbled up, like might not just be the Angel people you expect in the Angel book kind of a thing. So it's been really fun to play with those dynamics. I think the hardest thing about it is the cast is ginormous. The first priority is to serve the characters that are sort of already there on the map. I think we have some really great ideas about what that is going to be and how that's going to come together. It's hard to talk about without spoiling it. I've been one of the reasons I didn't want them to announce as early as they did was because I knew how hard the book. I knew we were still figuring some things out. We have some covers and some artists and some really cool things going on, but we were still building. And I knew it was going to be a really hard book to talk about. And I've already had to put some people off who want to talk about it, which I feel terrible about, because it's great when people are interested in the thing you're trying to do. But I think that it's worth being cagey about it to protect the reading experience, because I think it's a pretty cool idea. and let me say this, which is maybe a tease without a spoiler. This was my only idea. Okay. They didn't come to me like, oh, hey, do you want to do a pitch? I was like, I have a pitch. It's this. This is what I'm interested in doing with Buffy and Angel and that universe. And I just felt really good about it, because I was like, if they don't want this pitch, then that'll be really sad, because I'd love to do this, a dream project for me to do, obviously. But it would be very freeing, because I would just be like, okay, well, then it's too much work, man. 2 books, this incredibly huge cast, figuring out how to position those first issues. I mean, Buffy #1 is the hardest comic I've ever had to write. I'm very proud of it. I think I did a really good job. I think it's going to be a great issue for fans and hopefully for new readers too. We tried to straddle that line. It's tough, but we're doing it as much as we can, because, you know, you can't just bring back a 20-year-old property and be like, oh yeah, everyone will get it. So, you know, we got to hold the hand a little bit to get there. But I'm really proud of it. And yeah, if they had just not been interested in the idea, it would have been sort of freeing to just walk away and be like, okay, they don't like it. That's fine. But no, they were like, okay, that's cool. And so I was like, all right, I guess I got to do it now. So it's been a really, you know, I mean, Buffy was a formative thing for me, for sure. Like I don't think I'm not a writer with Buffy, but I'm a totally different writer without it, you know, being in there, like forming my brain about female superheroes and the way horror mixes with a lot of these other themes. And I just love it. I also think, pound for pound, that's maybe a silly thing to say since she's so light, but Buffy the Vampire Slayer is one of my favorite heroines out of any media ever. And one of the reasons she stands out so much to me is that usually when I'm reading or watching, whatever, experiencing something that has a team, the lead is often not my favorite. The lead often has responsibilities in the narrative that are just not as fun. Not as fun as some of the more comedy-based characters or darker characters, or, you know, people who've got a foot in both worlds or whatever. The lead girl, sometimes she's great, sometimes not so much. Buffy, my favorite character in the whole thing. And there's a lot of great characters to choose from, but it's not even close. I just think she's fantastic. I think there's incredible vulnerability and power there, and the choices she makes over and over again, putting herself on the line. She's just a girl, man. Like, fighting every day. It's really incredible. I love her.
She's just a girl. She is the Slayer.
Yeah.
And we will hear more about it eventually. We just gotta be patient.
I hope people love it. I hope people love it. I do think they're moving a bit faster now. I do think we'll start seeing some news. I would say at least in the new year, we'll be getting a lot of news, but maybe before that, where they're locking down schedules and release dates and stuff, and we start seeing more covers. And man, I can't wait to show interiors too. So it's pretty fun.
Hell yeah. We'll keep an eye out, everyone. It's coming. Just be a little patient, but that's fine. It's 2025. We know how to be patient at this point. From the beginning of one thing to, unfortunately, the end of another, Birds of Prey has been announced that it is coming to a close in December. A great run, though. Several years. We got into 30 plus issues. Like, it's a great run.
28, but
28 issues.
It's, you know, that's, I think that's the second longest run of my career, which is not a brag. It's a little sad that comics can't more regularly get those, but I never thought I mean, as someone who came from Marvel, which likes to relaunch pretty frequently, I mean, the only thing I did, I think my second longest book to the Captain Marvel run that was 50 was Hawkeye, which was 16. I mean, I guess you can call it 26 if you want to call West Coast Avengers a spiritual follow-up, but that seems like a real stretch. So,
it was to me. It's okay.
Yeah, the fact that DC like really got the book and supported it, even when I think our sales were probably flagging in the last year or whatever. But they still just like let us tell our stories and do our thing. And it was really nice to get to do that. I think, you know, losing Leo and Ben, the editor, I guess it was the end of 2020. I don't know what year it is, but it was hard. It was hard after that first arc, losing both Ben and Leo. I was super grateful that Jordy stayed on the book and sort of helped keep that visual identity, but then we lost her to Absolute Wonder Woman, which I completely supported. I mean, I was the one who said she should do Wonder Woman, but I think Sammy came on and has done an incredible job. Wong came on and did an arc. We had that rotating arc that I love, even if nobody else does, that had all those different artists, showing off.
Yeah. And the way, like, we mentioned that, I think the last time you came on, and how you were able, knowing that you had a different artist every issue, but made sense for the story.
Yeah, I think, people didn't like that, but we were painted into a corner, and it was nobody's fault but my own and just circumstance. Like, I was pretty overwhelmed with work, and then we lost Leo, and by the time I had a plot already in mind for Leo, and I didn't know it was very ambitious, and I didn't know if another artist was going to be able to handle it. And then by the time we tried to rework it, it was like the time it had compressed so much, we just weren't going to have good options for who we could get on board. And so one of the options became taking this idea I had and using it to our advantage and using different artists for it. I really had to talk editor Jessica Burby into it. She was very worried. I had to make several Excel spreadsheets to show how it could work. And I'm actually super proud of us taking a thing that could have been a weakness and sort of twisting it as much as we could into a strength. I think that arc is very fun, but I also see things that could have been better. I mean, hindsight, it's great. I mean, it's a little bit the same how I feel with what we're ending on here. Because it was during the previous arc, that On the Run, where they were sort of being hunted. Mm-hmm. It was during that arc that we realized we were probably going to have to pull the plug after the next arc. And, would I have created a whole new super team and a whole new base and done all this stuff to set, I was trying to build something. That's what you're doing for a lot of that time, is trying to build. And I maybe would have done that a little differently if I'd realized I wasn't going to have a chance to bring those guys back, except for in this wrap up, so, but I think, I don't know. It's hard to complain about getting 28 issues on a book that you dream about. And I love how we've been able to bring Sin back into the fold. The Barda cast thing, Big Barda,
that's a thing that took off out of
this. Yeah, and I hope it lives on. I mean, I think that's the only thing you can hope for when you work in such a collaborative medium where people are constantly taking over other people's books, is, you hope some of that survives. I do think Barda and Cass makes a lot of sense and seems to excite a lot of people, and so I hope that it will have some legs to it. We'll see.
Who knows? Big Barda, Cassandra Cain, Big Barda, Batgirl duo just team up. I mean, this was the team up, but more of that anywhere, I think, is no one would be upset about it, because that was very early on one of the fan favorite things that kind of blew up about this book. So it really sucks that this is ending, because this was essentially my real introduction to Big Barda as a character. I never really? Yeah. Wow. I never really dug too deep into the character, never really dug too deep into New Gods. I've read a little bit more New Gods now. Mm-hmm. But Barda's such a cool character, and the dynamic she has with Batgirl in this was super, super fun. Sucks this is ending, but 'tis the life of comics, and you kind of look back and you're like, glad it happened.
Yeah. I do think, whatever the failings are of the run, I think it will be celebrated as a book going forward. I think a lot of people are going to find it later, and really, it's just very fun. We're not doing the same kind of big swings that something like Absolute Wonder Woman is doing. So it's a little lighter and less serious and less layered, but I still think, I don't know, I just think there's a lot to be enjoyed in a simple superhero team book that's about people who care about each other trying to do good things in the world and often being stymied. It was pure joy. I hope it will age well for people, and that they'll add it to their Birds of Prey shelves and feel good about it. It was pure joy for me to do. I'd love to keep doing it.
It's hard to not talk about Absolute Wonder Woman whenever you come on. We mentioned a little bit about the book at the top of the show, but
Yeah.
we'll circle back to it now.
Listen.
I actually have a question for you.
Let's hear it.
What do you think it is about this Absolute universe as a whole that has really feel like it just stuck, like hit a nail in the head of just fans and of readers around the world? Because this thing has taken off. The Absolute universe has taken off, whether it's your Absolute Wonder Woman or Batman or whatever. It's just blown up. What do you think it is about this Absolute universe?
I think like anything, when you create a sort of event situation like this where you get new takes on existing characters, if people really swing for the fences on those, you can often get some real heat on you, the same way the Ultimate Universe has. I think in our case, I won't speak to anyone else, but I think in our case, there was a lot of talent that really cares about what they were doing, who did not treat this as whatever, who treated it as a chance to really build something big and cool. I also think that no matter what directive you come into with a job like that, one of the best things that can happen in that scenario is that the talent that's working together but also building their own thing, that they respect each other and are reasonably intimidated by each other, right? Like, I want my book to be the best book. I want the whole line to be strong. I want all of us competing at the top of our game, but my goal is for Absolute Wonder Woman to be the best. And Scott's goal and Nick's goal is the same, I'm sure, for Batman, et cetera, down the line, right? So I think that just lends itself to getting people pushing the envelope, pushing as hard as they can when you were already pushing, and I think that tends to create really great work. I think if the publisher is smart and is encouraging that and also getting out of the way a little bit when they can see something is working is also really great. I have to say, it's been an incredible experience to do this with DC. I'm shocked by the level of care and sort of autonomy they've given us to really build. But yeah, I think it comes from, there was a thing that happened when we were all sort of talking. I'm going to try not to talk out of turn here too much. When we were all talking about the Absolute Villains issue that Al wrote.
Yeah, Absolute Evil. Yeah,
Absolute Evil. Sorry. That Al wrote. When we were first looking at the Hawkman part of that, it wasn't landing in the group. And I said, but others I think agreed, it was a train of thought that we all got on together and realized, and I said, I think the reason it's not landing is that none of us have sort of taken the ownership and time that each of us took with our own characters to like build this. Like, none of us have individually spent the time to be like, oh, Hawkman should be this, that, and the other. Like, we've had a lot of conversations about it, but nobody had sort of really taken the time to delve deep. And I was like, I'm probably not the guy to do that because my Hawkman knowledge is not super deep, and it's probably works better to come from someone else. But I think they did that between us having those conversations, which became much more specific and productive, plus the work Al did on his own, ended up really leveling that up so that it had real impact when it happened on the page, as opposed to how it felt the first time we all sort of looked at it and we went, not like the bang you're expecting for that reveal, So I think that that's just a perfect example of how people working together can be really powerful in pushing towards another thing. I mean, you hear a lot, especially when you work in my industry and industries like this, like, television and film and stuff, that like, oh, you're getting the studio notes, or you're getting the publisher notes, or you're getting these, you're being noted to death, too many cooks in the kitchen. And like, that's a thing that's a for real thing that happens all the time and that can be very frustrating. But with a lot of talented people who are all driving toward one hoop in a room, as long as you can keep ego out of it, which I've been shocked to see has been really great on Absolute, I think you get really great results. And I think the proof is in how strong the line is across the board. I've been really incredibly proud to be a part of it.
Speaking of collaboration, I want to get into someone that you work with on this book, who also just won a Ringo Award for Best Colorist.
Yes.
Jordi Belair. Colorists don't get enough recognition, in my opinion, and they can really tie an entire series together when the main artist is not on it. It still feels like it's the same book because of a colorist, in this case, Jordi coming in when Hayden not doing these 2 issues right here. It didn't feel like a stark change because Jordi's colors are still consistent. What's it been like to work with Jordi? You mentioned earlier you worked with Jordi on Birds of Prey as well, but just Jordi as a person, it seems like incredible.
She's fantastic. I think she's who I always ask for. I know that I don't have to, not that I ever want to micromanage anyone, but I just know she and I are coming at something the same way. I'm not saying we always agree. We went about 50,000 rounds over the color of Diana's eyes in the first issue, so let's not talk about that, Jordi. But no, we're really aligned for the most part. And I would say one of the huge pieces of this is that Hayden is also aligned on that. Like, we all agree like what it should look like. We all have the same goals of what we're trying to say with the character and what's important to us. And all of that stuff really matters. I never feel like, sometimes Jordi makes a choice that I wasn't expecting or that wouldn't have been my first choice, but 9 times out of 10, it's cooler than what I was imagining or what I was thinking, or I see why she did it because there's intelligence behind it, or, even if it doesn't help the narrative, it's helping the emotional element. Like, imagine how that maze arc might have looked under a different colorist. Now, I feel like Hayden and I are giving her every opportunity to be like, listen, we don't want it to be gray down here for 4.5 issues, so we're going to have to keep it interesting. We're like, hey, there's magical psychedelic flowers, we can play with that, and she's got magic and this, that, and the other, and so we're able to draw those things in. But who knew we were going to get just like pages bathed in these blue tones inside the maze? Like, it's so much more interesting than if someone had just colored it like a lasso and fill with paint bucket. I just feel like a lot of coloring that's working less about the emotion or the narrative or the themes you're trying to talk about, then they're like, yeah, the wall is gray and the floor is brown and this couch is red, and I have no interest in that. I got to be honest, I hate it. I'm always looking for really interesting lighting choices that can either speak to mood or tone, or that help us narratively push something along. I just want things to look interesting. The colorist in my life is not good. It's dumb. Everything looks stupid. So, let's make it, why it's comic books. Why shouldn't it look like a neo-noir nightmare? Let's go there, man. I don't want it to look like, Portland at 2 p.m. It's not that exciting.
Nothing like the Pacific Northwest on a very cloudy day.
I mean, and nothing against, I chose it here. I love it here. But I'm just saying, we could do better if we're doing a comic book and we can color it however we want. It was when Jordi left Birds to move to Absolute Wonder Woman, Adriano didn't want to do that same, and I don't think anyone wanted him to do that same sort of off-register thing. I think some fans really loved it and got what we were doing, and others were tired of it and ready to move on. And it did seem like a signature thing Jordi was doing for her, anyway. So nobody wanted to force Adriano into that, but it did take a minute for Adriano to realize, oh, Kelly's crazy. She wants every scene to have weird lighting. He'd get notes back from me where I'd be like, these monitors are on. I bet that would be a blue glow. Like, let's, but it was very quickly that he was like, all right, I see what this crazy person wants. Like, let's find a way to make her happy and also do what, I think looks good. And I think we met in the middle really well. But I'll be honest, it thrills me every time we get a super weird lit thing. I'm like, oh, this is my favorite section, Adriano.
I love this next arc that we're doing. Read the first issue yesterday. Very fun. It deals with my favorite kind of trope with magic, which is magic always has a price. And what's the price that Diana has to pay? Well, we see it essentially issue in and issue out, but now what's the price the Earth has to pay for what Diana has been doing? I think that is incredible. But as much as I'd love to talk about that, I can't not talk about what's coming up ahead after that, especially after the big reveal on the last page of the last arc that we had. And I won't get into full spoilers for those who haven't read it, because I want you to read it. But Kelly, can you tell me anything about what's going on between big boy Bruce over here and Diana coming up?
So this will be a bit of a spoiler for people. A lot of people, I don't think there's anything wrong with just saying this. I don't really like to mess with people's expectations. I mean, I want everyone to buy the issue. Please buy the issue. It's great. But Zatanna is not the Batman story. Like, I don't even really know. I don't really know why people got on that. Like, why would you think we debut Zatanna in the pages at the same time we're debuting Bruce? Like, Bruce is a big enough deal. Like, why would we also bring Zatanna? She needs her own space. So expect to see a peek of Zatanna in a pretty sizable peek, but it's still a peek in issue 14 next month. But don't expect to see her after that until 16, which the cover just leaked or was revealed or whatever today with that Zatanna costume reveal on it. So yeah, Zatanna will be back. So she's in 14 and then she'll be back in 16 in a big way. And she'll be generally part of that arc that starts with 16. The Batman story is more of a one shot. I don't even know if we're calling it part 1 and part 2. I think that's still almost TBD, depending on how Nick and Scott decide to go. Like, I know the story they're doing. I'm not sure they've decided how tightly they should tie them together, or if it's just Bruce, Diana in Gotham in Bruce's story, and then Bruce in Diana's story. That might be the only connection, really. So we'll see. But, so it can operate. I think Scott was interested in decoupling it so people didn't feel like they had to get both. But I'll tell you right now, if you love this universe, I don't know why you wouldn't want both. I don't know why you'd be reading Wonder Woman and not pick up Batman 16, and I don't know why you'd be reading Batman and not pick up Absolute Wonder Woman 15. Like, they're great showings for the character. I mean, the double-page spread Hayden just turned in for, I think it's pages 2 and 3 of Absolute Wonder Woman 15. I mean, it's awesome. It's truly awesome. And that page in particular is going to be even cooler when Jordy gets her hands on it, because it's going to have this incredible green glow on it. Oh, I'm so excited. Very cool stuff.
I can't wait. We have like little rankings on our show every week, or I'd say every month or two. We don't do it every week, but every month or two on like which kind of like absolute titles, kind of like our favorite, and things kind of go up and down. But for me, very consistently is number 1 is Absolute Wonder Woman, just because I love the take of, we've talked about it before, just like that witchy element, and just adding that in, and the whole her growing up in hell with Cersei as a mother, just adding that, it feels like you put that on a paper and it quote unquote writes itself in a way where it's like, oh, it's just like, now you can go down this route and this route, and it's just so cool to explore, especially with the Mattia arc that you did where she has to go back into hell and deal with Hades and everything. It's like, oh, this is like because of this and this just all makes sense, and this is so cool. I've been loving it. Love it. And for those who haven't been reading it, what are you doing? Go read it.
I do think of all the things that we did, I think people really love the Cersei relationship, and the hell stuff or the underworld stuff is cool. But I do think more than anything, I hear people responding to, it just makes sense that she's magic. Like, it just feels right. And I agree. And it almost, I don't like to pit the books against each other or the counterparts against each other. I think it's a waste of time. And I think Batman has 50 books. Why can't Wonder Woman have 2 or 3? Like, why do they have to be in opposition? I don't really get it. So I don't know why people want to get really hung up on that, but whatever. People feel the way they feel, so here we go. But I just think that it does make sense. Like, it makes so much sense. You start to go, wait, why doesn't the regular universe have that? And you can see that they're pushing on it in ways. I mean, Diana frequently shows up in more magic-based stories like Justice League Dark and stuff. I mean, she's a huge part of some of those arcs. And I think to great effect, she really fits. Like, she slots into that really well. And I think that's, you know, part of how we got there. I think Historia was more on my mind when building than Prime Diana stuff. I think also Historia feeling, I guess I don't know if they treat it as like canon. It's a Black Label book, right? So it's sort of canon, right? Which
it can be if you want it to be.
Yeah, it sort of feels right? Like that feels more magic-y and more epic. But it's just a great thing that immediately distinguishes her from Superman and Batman. I mean, it's not that hard to distinguish her from Batman, but I think there's a lot of crossover between the kind of character she is and the kind of character Cal is and Clark, and, you know, how that all works. And magic is just a really big thing that can separate them in a great way, that gives them their own sort of, you know, areas to stake out, you know?
Last book. We gotta talk about Jeff. We gotta talk about Jeff. Look at Jeff and his brand new friend, Ken, the Septopus. How did Ken come up to be? How did Ken happen?
So Marvel had been sort of pushing on me to create another little animal-like type of character. And I was pretty hesitant to do it for a few reasons, but I did say that if we could get Gurihiru involved, you know, then I'd think about it some more. So when we knew we were going to be able to get her for the start of this Jeff Week book, I thought that's the perfect place. They really want this new character. Let's do this Ken guy and go from there. And like, when the design sheet for Ken came in, I was like, I don't even know why I resisted this. It's so fun. Like, why, you know, once your Guerrero's involved, just cut them loose. They can do anything. So yeah, he just became this new thing, and the idea was to call him Ken because they're at the pier, and Gwen happens to see him when he gets flung onto a sign, and it lights up Crack Ken, but he's covering up the crack part, so it just said Ken, and she's like, "Oh, Ken, nice to meet you." Which I loved that Gwen got to name him the same way she named Jeff. These silly names. It felt very on brand to me for everything. But honestly, it's been really fun. We did that where they first meet arc on the pier. That was a little short weekly story that or I guess it was a daily story that they did in 1 week. And now we're doing this weekly Jeff Halloween special, and it's been a really natural fit. I'm not saying Ken's going to be in every Jeff story, but he certainly seems like a little partner in crime that Jeff would be happy to have around.
2 questions for you left. One, this last arc that came out, super fun. You're able to bring in a lot of characters that you've written in the past, including for
the mini. Sorry,
the mini. Okay. Yes, a lot of characters written in the past, including Elsa, Rogue and Gambit were in there for a hot minute. That was a lot of fun, and it was Jeff just kind of going around the world, getting a little world tour, going from here, there, and everywhere, and ending with the Scarlet Witch magic. Brother Voodoo combo, super fun issue. But here's the question. With DCKO going on right now, and seemingly with anyone anywhere on the table available, apparently, which one of any of your characters would you like to see face off against any character in the world, apparently?
So wait, facing off Jeff versus
it doesn't have to be Jeff. It could be absolute Wonder Woman. It could be any of your favorite characters facing off against any character I'd say like you'd create, facing off against any character in the world.
Stu, I don't want to make them fight. I just want them to hang out. Yeah, I mean, I think characters I've created. I mean, it would be fun to see L'Oreal with her giant arms fight some giant. But you know, she's not popular enough to win. I don't want to make her lose. I mean, listen, Jeff makes a lot of sense. Can Jeff fight someone I don't like? Maybe that's the key.
I mean, if the Annabelle doll is on the table, apparently.
Well, there you go. Jeff versus Annabelle. So chop that up.
Oh my goodness. Kelly, thank you so much for taking the time. I figured I'd end on a very funny and silly question. Thank you so much for taking the time. For those who do not know, go check out Kelly Thompson's book. We talked about a lot of them today, and keep an eye out, of course, for Buffy the Vampire Slayer coming out sometime next year.
Yeah, and Angel. Don't forget poor Angel.
And Angel. Kelly, where can people find you on this cesspool that is the internet?
The best place is my Substack, which is 1979 semifinalist.substack.com. There's a newsletter you can sign up for to stay in touch. There's tons of stuff to read about on there. It's mostly free. Most posts are free. And I'm still on Blue Sky at Kelly Thompson. So that's great. It's going okay over there, I guess.
Social media.
It's very even over there. It feels very that fine GIF, which with everything on fire, right? It's like, how long will this work? I don't know. Anyway, I'm there. Come see me.
That'll do it for this issue of the Comic Corner. We do a show every single Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern, where we talk about our favorite books of the week, some comics, some news, a lot of all that stuff. We're another comic book podcast on the internet. You know what to expect. That'll do it for this issue of the Comic Corner. As always, go check out your local comic shop. Go to comicshoplocator.com to find nearest comic shop near you, and go pick up a Kelly Thompson book. Kelly, thanks again.
Thanks so much.